Hello everybody, Maven here, and a couple of weeks ago I put out a proof of concept DPS video using the, in theory, Grave Robber Crowning Duologue Solstice rocket launcher, and this is going to be a follow-up video to that. And as you know, the Crowning Duologue is the first ever launcher to get the perk Grave Robber, which just got a rework in the final shape. So now when you deal damage with a powered melee, it reloads your weapon, so you can pair that with ranged powered melees for some wacky DPS combos. And when you pair that on Strand Warlock with the Apotheosis Veil, some very interesting things can happen, to say the least. And in that other video, I theorized that this could be one of the new best DPS strats in the entire game, but now that we actually have the rocket launcher in our hands, we can put it to the test against other top DPS options to see if it's true. So let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. So this is the role that we'll be using, Grave Robber with Bait and Switch. Bait and Switch is going to give us a 30% damage buff, and with double reserves, we can hold 12 rockets. And then we have triple surges on our boots, and if we have somebody on our team on galley, then we can put out a decent amount of damage. So like I said in the intro, we are using Strand Warlock with Apotheosis Veil to combo with this launcher. And the reason for that is because after your super ends, you gain infinite abilities for several seconds, allowing us to melee spam and continually proc Grave Robber on our rocket launcher to auto-reload it. But I did see multiple people suggest that I should do this combo on Prismatic, not Strand. But I'll tell you why we can't do that, and it's because the other half of this combo lies in the Fragment Thread of Ascent. This is that activating your grenade ability will auto-reload your equipped weapon. So you see the loop here, Apotheosis is giving us infinite abilities, and then we just grenade, melee, and both of these things are proccing to auto-reload our rocket launcher. But then some of you guys might be confused. You'd be like, Maven, can't you just use a Demolitionist rocket launcher so you can go rocket nade, rocket nade? Well, you can't do that because Demolitionist has a 3-second cooldown before it can be procced again, and Grave Robber has a 3-second cooldown as well. It doesn't say it yet on D2 Foundry because this update was quite recent, but it does have a cooldown. So instead of waiting on these cooldowns and slowing down our DPS, we can just use Ascent with Apotheosis to go nade rocket, melee rocket, nade rocket, melee rocket. You see what I mean? So this way you're able to spam rockets at twice the rate than with a Demolitionist launcher alone. So anyways, we are pairing it with Witherhoard to proc Bait and Switch. You can use Izzy if you want, but I just prefer this. So let's cut to our Phyrizia clip here so you can see the combo in action. And I just wanted to give a huge shout out to D, who helped me out with the Phyrizia clips. He stuck around for literally an hour while I messed around with this combo to get it perfect. And by the way, he will be placing down a Well of Radiance for me, and there will be no debuff applied. So let's play that back in slow-mo so I can walk you through what just happened. So we start by proccing Bait and Switch, and then we go rocket nade, rocket melee, rocket super. Then Apotheosis will proc infinite abilities, and then we follow up with nade rocket, melee rocket, and then we swap back to Witherhoard, and then I also shoot a hand cannon shot for no apparent reason, and then we go back to the launcher. Then we nade, rocket, melee rocket, and here's where we do our first manual reload. But after you reload, do not shoot. Swap back to Witherhoard and then your hand cannon to re-proc Bait and Switch. The last time we did that, it was just to kill time, but this time it's to re-proc Bait and Switch. Then we go back to the launcher and go rocket nade, rocket melee, rocket, then manual reload again, and then rocket melee, rocket. And just like that, we dumped all 12 of our rockets. You may now clap. And in one Phyrizia damage phase, we ended up with 3.69 million damage, and I even could have thrown one more threadling grenade at the end, but I didn't, so it would have been over 3.7 million for sure. Now, if you compare that against Whisper of the Worm, obviously Whisper's gonna smoke it, but to compare it against another non-precision DPS strat, we're gonna go ahead and use the meta, which is an envious Bait and Switch Edge Transit. And this is not a completed build, by the way. I kind of just tossed this gear on for the video, but we are using Star Eater scales on the exotic class item to boost our super damage. And we'll be pairing this along with, of course, Nova Bomb. So let's see how it does, and yes, we'll be in a Well of Radiance with triple surges for this one as well. And we end up with 3.49 million damage compared to the Crowning Duologue's 3.69 million, so about 200k less. Now before you leave a comment, yes, I know what you're thinking, I could have procced Facet of Courage. That was a goof on my part, it probably would have brought the damage just a little bit closer, probably up to around 3.6 million at best. So it's very close, but the Crowning Duologue cooked just a little bit harder. But also keep in mind that the Crowning Duologue requires one of your teammates to be on Gallarhorn, so their damage is going to suffer. Whereas if everyone used the GL, everyone could be doing solid damage. The GL strat you can do solo, the rocket strat you can't. But I guess one slight argument is that the GL will be hard to use against bosses that are skinny and fast, like witches for example, whereas the Crowning Duologue and the Galley both have intrinsic tracking, so they'll land hits easier. But then a counter argument to that is that your threadling grenades will probably suck against those bosses like that, so there's really not much you can say to defend the Crowning Duologue. But I will say this, it's kind of untapped potential. Like if someone sweatier at the game investigated this launcher, they can probably come up with a much better sequence than I did and probably find a way to justify it and potentially break it. And if so, there might be some bosses in the game where this could be the sweaty speedrun meta. And D also suggested using the exotic class item on Prismatic with Apotheosis and Star Eater. And while you might not have Threat of Ascent to spam twice as many rockets, I'm not sure if maybe the bonus damage of your Nova Bomb can make up for that. Plus, Prismatic gives you a way to proc your own Radiant and apply your own Weaken, which Strand cannot do. But since this combo is meant strictly for boss phases, it's assumed you'll have teammates who can apply buffs and debuffs for you, so you don't gotta worry about that. And another thing that people have commented is that you can probably use the Grave Robber on this launcher with Song of Flame, since that super allows you to spam infinite melees, but unfortunately it does not work. Some of you swear by it and say it does work, but I promise you I tried it and it did not proc Grave Robber for some weird reason, and it's strange because they are clearly melee attacks. Maybe my game glitched? I don't know, but I'm telling you, it did not work. That or it's just bugged on Truth Teller, because that's what I tested it on. And I would suggest giving that a try for yourself with Star Eater Prismatic Warlock, because that could potentially be even better damage. You could pop Song of Flame and go Rocket Melee Nade, Rocket Melee Nade, and just repeat that. And if it does somehow magically work, then that might potentially break 4 million against Pharizia, or even 5 million and just straight up kill Pharizia. So it's definitely worth a try. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know what you think about the combo in the comments down below. And one last thing, yes, I would recommend farming Bonfire for a Grave Robber bait and switch Crowning Duologue if you do not already have one. Somebody could discover a better way to use it than I showcased off in this video, or just one small sandbox change away could push it over the edge into the meta because it's right on the cusp of it. So it's going to be a nice tool to have in the pocket for later. And that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like and a comment, because interacting like that really helps out the algorithm. Share it with a friend. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here on this journey to 100K. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.